Hey guys, Shelby from Shelby's Crafty Spot. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my signature patchwork quilt. This quilt measures 68 by 78. It is fat quarter and scrap friendly. You just have to make sure that your scraps are 4.5 inches or larger. It comes together super easy and it is a beautiful, beautiful quilt. As you see, I did that one super scrappy. I did it all with scraps and it only took me 2 days to make this one. And I'll be making this one for a family member for Christmas, so I hope they like it. Anyway, let's get started. For this quilt, we will need 12 fat quarters for the patchwork squares. This also works really well if you have large scraps. Your scraps need to be at least 4.5 inches in width and height because we do 4.5-inch squares. So you can do fat quarters, or if you have a bunch of scraps, the scraps work amazing. The pink quilt that I showed at the beginning of this video was made from scraps, and that's my favorite quilt I think I've ever made. 12 fat quarters. You're going to need 2.5 yards, and we will need half a yard for the quarter squares or 2 more fat quarters. Binding will be half a yard and backing will be 4 yards. Out of your fat quarters, you're going to cut 168 4.5-inch squares. For your sashing, you're going to do 24 widths of fabric at 3.5 inches and then subcut 97 8.5 by 3.5-inch strips. For your quarter squares, you're going to do 5 widths of fabric and then you should subcut 56 3.5 by 3.5-inch squares. The way I cut my fat quarters for this pattern is I will trim off the selvage first. Some fat quarter bundles will not have selvage on the fabric, but this one had it on like every single piece of fabric. I've cut off my selvage and then I'm going to fold my fabric. I call it hot dog style, kind of like paper in school. So I have it folded along the long edge, and then this is where you'll cut your 4.5-inch strips out of your fat quarter. One. So you should get 4 strips from that, and then you'll have a little bit of extra, and I just make a little extra pile because we can always use scraps. So then you'll just continue cutting 4.5-inch squares out of these, and you should get 4 more from each strip, so that should be 16 squares per fat quarter. And it honestly perfectly comes out. Like I had to just trim a tiny bit off the last part. So you should get 16 squares per fat quarter. This is AGF Geo Bloom collection. It is so freaking pretty. I love it so much. We'll also mention right here that while you're cutting out your patchwork squares, if you have directional fabric, don't worry too much about it because we are just cutting out squares. And no matter which way you cut it out, you can turn it and it will be the correct direction. So don't worry too much about that. Okay, so this will be the general layout of our blocks. We are going to take our 168 patchwork squares and we're going to make a 4-square block. So all you have to do is start by sewing 2 together. I would just chain piece 2 together. And once you have all of this done, you can start pairing them up. And all we're going to do is make a square. Really simple. Don't forget to nest your seams so that your corners are nice and sharp. All right, you'll end up with 42 squares just like this. And what we do from here is take a sashing piece and sew it to the bottom of all 42 squares. On 6 of these squares, you're also going to put a sashing piece on the top. All right, so 6 should look like this, and the remaining squares should look like this with just a sashing piece on the bottom. From here, I want you to make, with your sashing pieces, you're going to make 7 with 1 on the top and bottom, with a corner square on the top and bottom, so 7 like this. And the remaining will have 1 just on the bottom. And when you're done with all of that, you can start sewing your side sashing pieces onto your blocks. So the way I do it is I put one on the left-hand side of every single square. And then, so you'll have one on the left-hand side like this on your top. This is your top row. On 7 of the blocks, you'll have a sashing piece on the right. So most of them will be like this, and then on 7, put one on the right, and that will be your end. So this is going to have a border all the way around the quilt. So your rows should look like this. This is the end of your row. And your top row will look like this, with the sashing on the top and the side. So you're going to do 6 blocks in each row. On your 6th block, you're going to put one sashing piece on the right. So 6 blocks per row and then 7 rows. This quilt comes out to be 68 by 78. That is me holding it up. It's a really large quilt. I love it so much. And this pattern is available in my Etsy shop. I will link it below. And really, really basic instructions, just like I showed you. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. If you did, please give me a like and a subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.